Cyan, if you're watching, hello to everyone on YouTube and everyone on Facebook. Okay, guys, I hope you can hear me okay. I hope there's no feedback. We're just running a couple of minutes of tests at the moment before we properly get started. Yeah, hopefully everything runs okay. It's a little bit weird because one of the cameras is mirrored and the other one's not. So, and if it looks like I'm not staring directly at you, that's because I'm not, because I've got webcams attached to my setup over here, which makes it a little bit unusual. Okay, I've got my assistant Cyan watching from somewhere. And Cyan, if you can confirm to me that everything looks and sounds okay, that would be greatly appreciated. Otherwise, okay, guys. What time are we? We've got 3 minutes. 3 minutes. I'm just gonna get ready. Okay, get your questions ready. Today we're making Malaysian chicken curry, and I've got my son Noah with me. I've got, for those who don't know me, I've got a Down syndrome toddler. His name is Noah, and he's here with me tonight. And he's a little bit ill, just like I am. So if he grizzles a little bit, I'm just going to have to duck off screen a little bit to attend to him. He's just watching his favorite show in his room at the moment. So we'll see how we go. Okay. Let me see. I hope everyone can hear me okay. Just let me quickly send a message off to Cyan and see what she says. And again, welcome to everyone. My name is Jackie M. For those who don't know me, on the Froothie Facebook page. And I am going to be doing Malaysian curry tonight. And hopefully everything runs fine. We all know with live broadcast, anything can go wrong at, at any time. So, okay, video and sounds are both good. Okay, great. Now I've got 2 minutes. It's a bit unfair for me to start early. So I'll get Cyan to start sharing the URL to all my social media pages and all that. And if you're watching, those who watched me last week, thanks for coming back. And those who are new to this, my name is Jackie M. And out comes Noah, and he's bouncing his ball around. So I hope it's not too disruptive. You guys got to appreciate like a lot of people. I juggle a whole lot of stuff. So I've got my I've got a toddler around with me, and his name is Noah, and he's got Down syndrome, and he's not really well today. So hopefully everything holds together. Like I said, my claim to fame is Malaysian food specifically, and more generally Southeast Asian food, and even more specifically street food. And also I used to run a restaurant, and I'm fairly active on social media, and I've been playing around with a Thermocook. For those who've never seen one, this is what it looks like. I'm just going to move this around a little bit. Hi, sweetie. Okay, this is the Thermocook, and it's what they call a kitchen machine. A few of these out in the marketplace nowadays, and I actually started out using a Thermomix. I used to be a Thermomix consultant for the briefest time, actually, and then I came across a Thermocook, and I haven't looked back since. Okay, and Noah, you're gonna say hello to everyone. Noe, say hello. Okay, you want to go back and watch your show? Here you go. And my apologies for my voice, everyone. Like I said, I'm just at this stage of my cold where it is just really cracking at the moment. Okay, now Malaysian chicken curry, guys, is what we're doing today. 7 a.m. start. Hi, everyone. My name is Jackie M, and I am doing a Southeast Asian cooking masterclass series. And today we are doing a Malaysian chicken curry, very simple dish to prepare. And I'm going to show you how I prepare it with a Thermocook and an Optimum Thermocook. And I've got it over here. And I've just got some ingredients laid out. If you signed up to be notified about this event, you would have gotten a copy of the recipe for today. Speaking of recipes, I'm gonna While this is cooking a little bit down the track, I'm going to explain a little bit about how I go about my recipes and that sort of stuff. Okay, so don't stress out too much about them at this stage. But now, Asian ingredients. I know one of the things that people get really flummoxed about is Asian ingredients, and I did a quick. I actually shared a picture. I just remembered. I shared a picture on social media the other day of like different types of Malaysian curry powder, and like if you go to a lot of Asian grocery stores that are a little bit more specialized, I guess. You should be able to find Malaysian brands of curry powder, and I'm not being I'm not trying to tell you that Malaysian is best or whatever, but generally, I think it makes sense if you're cooking a Malaysian recipe to look for Malaysian ingredients, right? And but failing that, if you can't find it, your favorite type of curry powder is completely fine. But generally, Malaysian curry powders, you would find three general types of curry powder. Usually, you'll find a meat curry powder, a fish curry powder, and usually a rendang curry powder, okay? And I've mentioned in my post as well that don't stress out too much about their descriptions. They're really kind of like more essentially different ratios and different combinations of curry spices. So essentially they all contain the same thing, but slight variations in the balance. Rendang curry powder tends to be a little bit stronger in flavor. The fish curry powder tends to have more turmeric and a couple of those kinds of ingredients that give your fish or seafood curry a nice yellow hue to it. But as I mentioned as well, when I used to run my restaurant, I actually used to use a fish curry powder for my lamb curry, okay? Just because it says fish curry powder doesn't mean you're only limited to using it for fish curry. That's what I'm trying to get across. So today we're doing a Malaysian chicken curry, and I am in fact using a meat curry powder. I'm going to show you the one that I'm using today. Here you go, over here. I've been told to clean up my setup a little bit. So I'm trying to be very organized, but that's not usually how I roll. Okay, in Malay it actually says serbuk kari daging, which means meat curry powder. Okay, and in English it says meat curry powder. This is just one of the brands. There are lots and lots of different brands out there. If it says it's from Malaysia, you're in pretty safe hands, because usually only the best regarded brands actually make it to our shores over here, because it's so hard trying to bring products into a country. Okay, so you have to have a pretty good product to be able to successfully compete for shelf space here in Australia. Now, so that's what I'm using, and generally with curry powders, it depends on the kind of meat you're cooking. If you're cooking a red meat curry, you can afford to use more curry powder. If you're cooking a chicken curry like I am here today, I would generally recommend about 2 heaped tablespoons of curry powder per kilo of meat, and it varies to individual taste, right? If you know anything about Malaysia at all, Malaysia is a multicultural country, and when you start digging into the nuances of how the different cultures, the different ethnic background, different ethnicities tackle their recipes, you're going to find that perhaps the Chinese would probably be a little bit more light-handed in their seasoning, and similarly, they probably would have a lighter kind of like curry, whereas the Indians tend to like very, very strong spices sort of thing. So you might find that an Indian curry, chicken curry, might be a lot stronger in flavor than a Chinese cooked one, right? So that's just something that you keep in mind. The Malays probably strike the balance, right? I think as far as curries are concerned. But generally, I would use about 2 tablespoons of curry powder to a kilo of meat. I'm going to be a little bit radical here today. Now, one of my reasons for doing a chicken curry with the Thermocook today is partly because in relation to a Thermomix, like I say, they operate basically the same way. I saw a critic comment in a post just a couple of weeks ago about how they never got the whole kitchen machine thing, because their diet doesn't consist of smoothies and dips, right? But the fact is, these kitchen machines do actually do a lot more than that, which is why I'm doing a curry. And I'm not just doing a chicken curry, I'm actually doing a chicken curry on the bone. These are like what they call lovely legs, which are chicken legs with the skin removed and the bottom cut off. Okay, so I've got probably about 1 kilo of lovely legs in here. Now, because I'm using a chicken on the bone, it will take a little bit longer to cook, but it doesn't matter. And so this is my jug, and I'm just using a normal, the blade And the ingredients I'm going to use are onion. So I've just got one large onion that's been cut up. Actually, you know what? I did the same last week. You should always start with processing the tougher ingredients, okay? So I've got some lemongrass over here. This is fresh lemongrass I picked up from my Asian grocery store. You can usually find them for about $1.50 for 2 sticks or something like that. If you're lucky, depends on where you buy it. These have just been cut into about 3-inch things over here. I've just got a knob of ginger I'm going to throw in, okay? And I'm just going to process this first before I move on to the other ingredients. So just lock it in place. And so I've just done that for about 5 seconds. And that's not quite enough there for me to be able to puree it properly. I can add the other ingredients there. So I'm just going to throw in the garlic and the onion, right? And I'm going to process it a bit longer. Seconds. See how it looks. Okay, that looks fine to me. I might just want to process it a little bit longer because the lemongrass I picked up was actually quite dry. Well, certainly by the time I use it, it's been sitting around in my kitchen for a few days, so it's dried up a little bit. So I might just process it a little bit longer. I'll show you what it looks like at this stage. Right? Okay, you can see that. Right. Okay. Now I'm just going to throw in the curry powder. Usually I would suggest just mixing it up into a paste with a little bit of water, but there's quite a lot of the onions actually stinging quite a bit now. But there's quite a lot of moisture in the onion now that it's been processed. I'm just going to mix it up here and show you what it looks like. And then if needs be, I'll just add a little bit more water just to turn it into a paste consistency, right? Okay, it's not looking too bad. I'll just hold it up here. Okay. So this is it here. I'm inclined to actually just process it a little bit longer just to get the last of the lemongrass. The lemongrass usually processes really well, but because I didn't stick a lot in it, and also because I was using the top end of it a little bit because I was being cheeky to try and get the most out of it. Let's go. Okay. Okay, so there you go. I'm just going to add a bit of oil to this now. And you want a fair bit of oil for it to be able to do its thing properly. You can always skim it off at the end. I know a lot of people, for health reasons, generally try and avoid using too much oil. If you're cooking, this is what we call in Malay rempah, okay? So this is like the curry spices that are going to form the basis of the curry that we're using, right? And now that I've put the oil in, I'm going to leave the lid off and I'm going to use the auto function here. It's got like a lot of preset settings here. I'm going to use the auto function and use the saute setting. It's going to cook for about 5 minutes and I'm just going to come forward and talk to you in 2 seconds if you don't mind. Okay, Right. So now, as far as what I wanted to talk to you about is just quickly using curry powders, right? I know that you get a lot of Australian chefs post share their recipes on you know big news sites like Sydney Morning Herald and all that sort of stuff. I remember probably a year or two ago, famous Australian chef, one of your go-to celebrity chefs, posted a recipe for beef rendang. Um, and it had ingredients things like galanga, lemongrass, turmeric, um, a lot of different ingredients, all separate, all individually roasted and then added into the dish to make a beef rendang. And Westerners look at it and think, oh wow, this is complicated. And we Malaysians look at it to a person, I promise you, my Malaysian friends are looking at it and think, why didn't they just use a rendang curry powder? Okay, because that's how we cook in Malaysia. I hate to admit it, but even growing up, I grew up in Malaysia in the 70s and the 80s. Even back in those days, we used to use curry powder. Okay, so it's not. You may think it's cheating, you may think it's a shortcut, but that's how we've done it for 30 plus years. Uh, Back in the home country, you can, if you want, individually roast all these different spices and pound them and all that and mix it up into a beef rendang. That's your average Malaysian household would just pick up the prepackaged spices, or they'll get their local spice Indian guy to pack it for them, and they take it home and they just dump it into the sauce pot and just cook it up. Okay, so that's one thing about Southeast Asian cooking, about Malaysian cooking, that I think a lot of Westerners, if they've been introduced into it late in life, they overcompensate and try to overcomplicate a lot of things. When I went to Thailand, same thing. We were doing some Thai dish, and this at a high-end hotel. And I said, oh, and he says all the ingredients, this, and red curry paste. I said, do you make your own red curry paste? No, nobody makes their own red curry paste. They all buy it, okay? So don't worry too much about having to buy all these things pre-made. So this is cooking away. The other thing I wanted to bring up, right, the picture, if you saw that picture of the Malaysian chicken curry that we had, it actually had what's called, that particular batch I made actually had curry leaves in it. So I thought this would be a good opportunity for me to show you what curry leaves are. Okay, there you go. So this has been in the freezer, in my freezer, so it looks a little bit dark in there, but usually it's a much lighter color. And you can usually find curry leaves at Indian grocery stores. Okay, you can order it. Also, in my experience, your experience may be different in different parts of the world. But in my experience, in my part of Sydney, this ingredient is a little bit harder to come by at grocery stores run by Southeast Asians. Okay, you'll have better luck finding it in Indian grocery stores. So look for a grocery store run by an Indian person, and they'll have the curry leaves usually in the refrigerator. Okay, my Southeast Asian grocer, who's Vietnamese, he buys it for me. I have to pre-order it a day beforehand or 2 days beforehand, and you'll buy it from the Paddy's markets. Okay. Another thing I want to show you, I get asked this a lot. These are pandan leaves, and this is what they look like. And again, this is very unique because it's been sitting in my freezer. Okay. They grow virtually like weeds, sometimes on the side of the road in Malaysia. And when people ask me what pandan leaves are, I describe them as Asian vanilla. And I could swear I'm the first person who ever described pandan leaves as Asian vanilla, right? And then suddenly everyone nowadays it turns out it's Asian vanilla sort of thing. But essentially, it's kind of like a flavoring herb. It's got a nice subtle fragrance to it, and you can use it in both sweet and savory dishes. A lot of the time, the way to use it in a savory dish, and you can even use it in a curry, and I might just throw it in just for the heck of it, is you would kind of tie it up like this in a knot. Oops. And then It's a bit limp, so it doesn't matter. Usually it's a bit more crunchy when it's fresh, and then you might just bruise it a little just to bring out the flavor. And also the way you can use this as well is in your rice. If you're cooking some rice, you know, you throw a knot of this in your rice, and it permeates the rice with a nice subtle flavor. And also, if you see any Asian sweets and delicacies like those steam cakes that look green in color, that's what gives it the green color. Pandan leaves, okay? In Thai, it's called pandanus, okay? But over here in Malaysia, we call it pandan. And this is what it looks like. Let's see how this is going. This is probably good. Okay. I'm just going to cook it a little bit longer. It's got a nice flavor. And I'm going to add more oil to it. Because what you want to do is cook it so that it the oil starts to separate, okay? Okay. Let's just give it another 5 minutes or so. Okay. The other thing I want to show you, chicken lovely legs. Like I said, what you can do is just kind of like snip at it, and I might just do that, and that will help it to cook a little bit faster. And usually, if you're, you know, if you grew up in Southeast Asia, you'll know that curry always tastes better the day after. So usually, you know, first night is okay, and the day after, all the flavors get absorbed. It tastes a lot nicer. And when I was about 15 years old, I ran away from her and I moved in with a Malay family, and the food used to be cooked by the grandmother in the house, and she made this beautiful curry. I think it was like beef rendang or something like that, and it just sits on the table in one of those covered, you know, food covering things, and nothing goes in the refrigerator, and it tastes beautiful. You know, it sits out there for 2-3 days. And this is in Malaysia, and, you know, in hot and humid weather. So it really depends on how you prepare your curries. They can actually be quite resilient. Probably chicken not so much, and certainly the drier curries will last longer, which is why the serunding I made last week can actually last out of the fridge for months and months, right? And I was gonna mention, if you actually downloaded the serunding recipe, and Cyan is going to post links to where you can download all these recipes if you haven't already. But if you've downloaded the recipes now, I mentioned last week, and I got to reiterate it. The fact is that a lot of my recipes, the ingredients I write down, one of the things I hate the most doing is to kind of like write recipes. Okay, because I do a lot of my cooking by instinct. It's like, okay, that seems about right, sort of thing. So when I have to write recipes, I usually do it from memory. I would be thinking, okay, 2 kilos of chicken, okay, that, you know, I guess about this much salt will be okay, and that sort of stuff. But it's not an exact science. So when I was doing this rending here the last week, and I followed my own recipe, I found after the fact that it was actually a little bit overly salty. So if you're planning to make it and you haven't already, and you haven't caught me out yet, just cut down the salt by the chicken stock granules by, oh gosh, cut it down to, I think from memory that recipe said 2 tablespoons of chicken stock granules. You probably just need half a tablespoon, and then, you know, see how you go with that. But like I say, you know, once you get the hang of it with Asian cooking, you'll start cooking by instinct as well. You wouldn't need to measure anything. Okay, and that's what you want to achieve, because you'll find a lot of like some of the best recipe blogs, and unfortunately, I guess a lot of people don't read Malay. I do, but some of the best Malay recipe blogs are written by housewives back in Malaysia, and they, you know, there's no amounts, no quantities in them. Okay, they'll just say, enough salt to taste, enough sugar to taste, enough tamarind to taste. Everything is to taste, or, you know, everything is you know, everything is. There's that phrase, you know, secukupnya, which means you know, as much as you need, or just enough, right? Okay, so that's the kind of approach you're going to have to bring to your cooking at some point once you get the hang of it. What else do I want to say? Okay, so that's out of the way. Now, if anyone has any questions, don't forget to post it in the comments because Cyan is monitoring the comments and she will somehow pass one to me. Hopefully, I can see some of them over here. I've just got my Lenovo here and see how it goes. And again, if you're just joining us, just thanks for joining us. And this is my second episode, and I'm doing Malaysian chicken curry. I'm just gonna stop this now. Now, usually when you're frying your rempah, you want to bring out the the oils a little bit. Okay, so this is nearly there. No, but I'm gonna short circuit this and add the chicken in now. And I gotta apologize for my condition. Like I said, I'm just recovering from a cold. I'm actually probably at the height of my cold, to be honest. So I'm putting the whole chicken in. You know what? I'm trying to think that I've mentioned this before. With the Thermocook, the blades, do spin only one direction, whereas with the Thermomix, they can reverse spin. Okay, and the reverse spin actually means that you're making contact with your meat with the blunt edge of the blade. Whereas with the Thermocook, it comes with two different blades. This is the kind of like the stirring blade. So I might actually switch it out to the jug with the stirring blade, just to make sure that we don't end up causing any blockage here. Okay, let's see how we go with this. I've never actually used the stirring blade for this chicken. I mentioned actually, it only occurred to me fairly recently that that second blade was actually for stirring. I just assumed it was just for dough making. But let's just use it here. But I've always, in all honesty, used the normal blade for my chicken curry. Okay, so let's do that. And I'm going to add some water to this. And cover it. And let's, what do we want? Oh, we're just going to set it on the manual setting. Temperature 100 degrees. And I'm going to set it for some 14 minutes at the moment, right? And I'm just going to add other things to it as I go. If you're lazy, you can actually add everything in right now. And the seasoning ingredients that go into this are a little bit of sugar. A lot of people don't realize, but with Malaysian curries, I think a lot of Indian curries, if you're from India, I know because I used to own my own restaurant and I had staff from all over the world who worked for me. To the Indians, to see me put a bit of sugar in my curry, that really weirds them out. Okay, with Malaysian curries, we always put a little bit of sugar in it, just to kind of like temper the flavor a little. With the Thais, they put a lot of sugar in their curries. Okay, so those are the kind of like little nuances of our different cuisines. Just something that you can. And certainly with the Nepalese, when they see me put sugar in the curry, it's like, holy moly, what are you doing? You're killing it. Okay, but we do put a little bit of sugar in it. And like I said, I talked about chicken stock granules or chicken powder last week. It's a little bit controversial. You don't have to use this. It's like using chicken stock cubes in your cooking, right? This kind of brand is popular, but it also contains MSG. It also contains MSG. Okay, so you don't have to get this. You can get other brands that don't contain MSG. It's entirely up to you, or you can leave it out altogether. Okay, but I did mention last week as well that when I go to Malaysia, when I'm with chefs who've been around for 20, 30 years, cooking for a living, they're set up. They've like a big pot, and they're set up in terms of their seasoning on the side. Always have this among all the other stuff, like, if a Western chef always has salt and pepper and olive oil and whatever, in their repertoire in terms of seasoning of the food. The Asians have this along with oyster sauce, soy sauce, and that sort of stuff. Okay, so it is very, very widely used in Asia. So for 1 kilo of this, I would use. Look, I'm just going to be really conservative after last week's effort, but I usually would use about 1 tablespoon to 1 kilo of meat. Okay, I'm just using a little bit under 1 tablespoon here. And I'll put a little bit of salt in it, just a pinch of salt. And we stop. My son Noah is just playing with the drawers. You can't see him. He's having me. No, okay. And a bit of sugar. I'll put about half a teaspoon of sugar in there. Okay, you can adjust it to taste. And I'm going to put the cover on. Hello. Look at that. Say hello. Here we go. Now, what I wanted to do tonight was actually cook a little bit of rice, but I don't think I'm going to have the time to do that. But let's talk a little bit about, I'm just going to stick some of this in there. Let's talk a little bit about cooking rice, right? In terms of the kind of rice we use in Southeast Asian cooking, we almost always use jasmine rice. Oops. We almost always use jasmine rice, so don't worry about the other more fancy ones. I mean, you might use basmati rice when you're cooking an Indian meal or something like that. But generally, jasmine rice is all we need to worry about. And as far as how we cook it, I'm just gonna stop this for a little bit, and I'm gonna add the coconut milk to it as well. Okay. And as far as how we cook it, when I was growing up as a kid, learning how to cook in the kitchen with my mom, what I was taught to do was to wash the rice like 3 times over, rinse the rice 3 times over. And we boil the rice, we don't steam the rice. I mean, certainly in my household anyway. Okay. Might need to add a little bit more water, but we'll see how we go with this. Okay. So basically, okay. I'm just going to reset the setting. Maybe I turned it off by accident. Okay. So cooking the rice, first of all, we rinse it 3 times over, well, twice over, to get the funkiness out of the rice. And then the 3rd time you add the water, and you always measure it. And it's quite interesting because every Asian kid who grew up in Asia will tell you this: how you measure how much water you put in the rice, right? You stick your finger into the pot where the rice sits, right? And you always go up to the you know where your joints are. You go up to the 2nd one. Okay, the rice goes in there, and you stick up basically water to go up to the 2nd level. Okay, and somehow that always seems to work. So what I do is I stick my hand in there, so the rice goes up to this level, and then the water goes up there. Essentially, it's kind of like double the amount of water to the rice. And it's quite funny because I had a friend who was telling me, he's Indian, also from Malaysia, now living in New York. And he said his dad was a scientist, complained to his mom, Noah, hey, no, wait, come to mama. This was about to break a bowl. Now, his dad was a scientist, apparently once took exception to his mom teaching her kid how to cook rice and how much water you put in. Says, but every pot is different. And you know, every family is different. Why is it? It always works when you take your, you know, the water level up to the second notch on your little finger. But it works, you know. So that's how we Asians measure things. Everything is just kind of like guesstimate. And the other thing I want to point out as well when you're cooking rice is that if you're boiling rice, keep the lid on it, um, and bring it to a boil at the highest heat, and then turn it down to the smaller setting and let it cook. And then at the end, just kind of like tip the lid open a little bit when the you know, and then let it cook for a further 5 minutes, and then just leave it alone, and then let it just basically let the steam kind of like keep cooking the rice, and then 10 minutes after that we're done. It will take probably about 20 minutes all up. But I remember I don't watch any reality cooking shows, but apparently there was an episode of MasterChef where there was one of the contestants was someone from Malaysia, and apparently every 3 minutes she was going over to the rice to open up the lid to check and see how it was going. And all the Malaysians who were watching her and supporting her from their television screens afterwards were screaming their heads off, just leave the goddamn rice alone, because you know, when you're cooking rice, if you're Asian, you don't open the lid, you just leave the lid alone, because you need the steam to be trapped in the pot for the rice to cook properly, otherwise it'll end up al dente. And that's the other thing as well. You know, people confuse Noah. Somebody just Noah. I can just see him from the corner of my eye. I'm supposed to get into trouble, break one of my big bowls. Yeah, so when you're cooking rice, people always talk about al dente. You know, when you're talking about Asian rice, it should not be al dente. It should be cooked all the way through. It should be soft and fluffy. If it's al dente, it means you haven't cooked it right. Okay, so I should throw these in. Probably I should have thrown them in beforehand. Okay, so I've got the pandan leaves and I've got the curry leaves. So I hope they'll add a nice dimension to the curry. We'll see how it goes. It's not in the recipe because I generally assume that these ingredients are a little bit, maybe a little bit exotic for some people, okay? In terms of trying to find them, I don't know, to taste them. When you're cooking curries, really the two core ingredients you want to have are the onion and the garlic. Everything else, the ginger, the lemongrass, they're nice to have, but you know, you don't have to have them. I've cooked plenty of curry where all I used was onion and garlic as the base wet ingredients, okay? That plus the curry powder, and the rest of it just kind of like, it's just you know, nice to have, like I said. So let's see how it goes. And I mentioned on social media today, after this, once I'm done with this, I'm going to be heading out because I'm catching up with one of my friends, and people are asking me who's this, because I mentioned that he's in X-Files. Anyone here watches X-Files, let me know. But yeah, he's in the X-Files, and his name is Dean Haglund. And he is, if you're one of those people who watched the X-Files from years and years ago now, you remember there's these three characters, they're called the Lonesome Gunmen, right? And they're kind of like conspiracy theorists who help Mulder discover a lot of, you know, a lot of conspiracy, and they do a lot of research and that sort of stuff. And Dean Haglund is the guy, one of the three guys, he's the one with the long hair. Now we please stop. Noah. Yeah, he's the guy with the long hair, and he now lives in Sydney with his wife. And so I'm going to be meeting up with him because he's got some projects that I'm working on as well. Because one of my other things, apart from the whole food thing, is that I'm a co-founder of a TV startup based in Indonesia. So I'm just checking out some of his work. That'll be interesting. So I'm going to give him a try some of this curry, and hopefully he'll give it his seal of approval. Okay. Let's see how this is going. Let's go another couple of minutes. So if you've got any questions, let me know. No, it's just taking a second. No, it's stop. Well, nothing else. He's at least not sick. He was really sickly earlier today. He was all whiny and crying and that kind of stuff. So at least I'm just trying to entertain himself out there. Please. No, I'm the one with the sickness. Okay, let's see how this is going. Now, generally with the chicken legs, I would cook it for about 15 minutes. So this is going to be about right. If you think that it's not quite done, just set it for another couple of minutes and see how it goes. Right? I can smell the flavors coming through quite strongly. So I'm just going to prepare to get something to put it in so that you can see what it looks like. Now, like I say, if you've got any questions about any of these recipes, post them in the Optimum Thermocook Facebook group. There's a Facebook group. Just look up Optimum Thermocook live demonstrations, I think it's called. I post them quite regularly. And I also, apart from these sessions, I also do some quick live broadcasts during the week as well. Last week I went shopping at an Asian grocery store and just showed people around what to buy, what to look out for. And just the other day I basically covered a little bit about belacan, which is shrimp paste. And I like to experiment with all these different live streaming platforms, so you'll find that each one of them are a little bit different. When I go up and see Dean after this, I'll either use Facebook Live or might use Periscope or something. Okay, let's just pause. Let's see how this is looking. Okay, that looks to me like it's done. I'll just hold it up to you. If you can see it. Okay. At some point, once it's cooked up, everything looks just like a flat brown color, but at some point the oils will start to separate. And you should, ideally with a Malaysian chicken curry, what really whets the appetite is seeing a nice little sheen of oil over the top. Okay, so that's what you want to aim for. And like I said, you can't be bothered switching out the blades. This is in fact the first time I've actually switched out the blades, so it does actually turn out quite well, even using the food processor blade to make this with. And the other thing about this is if you want to add things like potatoes, that will work really well in a curry as well. What we used to do in Malaysia was actually cook the potatoes with the chicken, right? We'd usually add it in a little bit after the chicken. But after we came to Australia, it's just the way my mom did it. She started actually separately deep frying the potatoes first and then mixing it in. And that just helped the potatoes to hold their shape in the curry. Otherwise, they tend to go a little bit soft. Okay, so this is my, you can see it, my Malaysian chicken curry. It's a little bit hard to, I don't want to tilt it because you can imagine I can make a bit of a mess. So I'm going to take a photo of this and post it on the the Optimum Thermocook live cooking demonstration group, so you can see. And hopefully, if you want to join me later on tonight, like I say, it will take me a few minutes to clean up here and then head out to meet Dean. And then we'll probably, he's doing an event out in the city, near the city right now. And hopefully a little bit later tonight, I'll be able to do a live stream and make him try some of this and let you guys know what he thinks of it. Okay, so this is going to be quite funny. It'll be his first time eating my food. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me now, guys. And don't forget, if you want to buy the Optimum Thermocook, if you don't already have one, you can buy it through jackiem.com.au/Thermocook. Let me just double check. I'm terrible at this sort of stuff. Okay. Cyan is going to tell me. Cyan will post the link, okay? Let me see. Just give me 2 seconds. Oh, Froothie. I'm sorry. JackieM.com.au/Froothie, spelled F for Freddy, ROOTHIE. And if you use the coupon code that Cyan is going to post in the comments. Like I said, I am terrible. I've just been so focused on doing this and recovering from my cold. She'll have all the details. Look at the comments on social media, on Facebook and all that. She'll tell you what coupon code to use so you can pay a special price for your Thermocook if you decide to buy it. But otherwise, I will see you next week. And like I said, if you've got any questions, and most importantly, if you attempt this dish at home, please post a picture on social media and use the hashtag JackieM Live, JACKIEM for Malaysia, live, LIVE, okay? And I'll convince Froothie, the people who are helping to promote this event, to throw in some special incentives for you guys to do as well. So I've seen some pictures of us runding and that sort of stuff over the course of the last week. It's very exciting, but I expect to see more over the course of the next few days. So give it a shot, guys. And I will see you next time. Thank you so much, and I will see you next week.